So hey guys, it's Paul, and I know that this video is going to be extremely tough to record, but I recently wrote an article called Why Men Kill Themselves, and I shared it on Facebook and a lot of people could relate to it, and in the end it had, I believe, 1,500 shares at the time of creating this video. It's been seen by nearly 200,000 people, and you know, I've had tons of emails and there's a lot of comments, and it's really made writing the post worthwhile. And I wanted to create a video on it just to really spread the message and really spread my viewpoints on why men kill themselves and why the topic behind suicide. Now, firstly, you know, why am I creating this video? And it's because I suffered from, you know, I was a victim of suicide, and my dad took his own life nearly 7 years ago now, and it took me a great deal of time to realize why he did it. And that is the thing, that is the number one question that I ask myself, and I think everyone does ask themselves, is why did he do it? Why couldn't he just, you know, why couldn't he open up? Why couldn't he deal with it? And why the heck, or like, why did he do it? And especially in my dad's case, because my dad had a full-time job. He was, you know, well paid. He also had a part-time job on the side. He did some physiotherapy. He had a psychology degree. He had a loving wife. He had a loving parents. He had 2 sons. You know, a great deal of friends. He was very loved by so many people, but he still took his own life. And the question that I ask myself is, why did he do it? Why couldn't he just open up to someone, and why couldn't he just talk to someone? And to cut, you know, a long story short, and I've shared this before, and it took me 6 years to share it. My dad was in a good place as far as we believed, and then he had a breakdown and couldn't handle his emotions, couldn't handle life anymore, and within the space of 2 weeks from that breakdown, attempted to take his own life. Recovered from that accident, but then, you know, it was a rocky ride up and down for the next 5 months, in and out of a mental health unit, you know, him not really admitting to the fact that he did try and take his own life, and then, you know, 6 months from his original breakdown, he ended up taking his life by walking in front of a lorry. And it shocked so many of us, and a lot of people that didn't know the problems that he faced were asking why, like, why did he do it? And, you know, in the end, what could we have done? Like, this is what we question ourselves. What could we have done? What could we have done to help him? He had so much support from so many people that he could have turned to, but he didn't. And the reason that I've believed that my dad did it and why people do it is because their perception of life collapses. Their perception of life darkens. There is nothing, you know, there is nothing that they are in control of anymore, apart from the one decision whether they should live another day or not. So I believe that my dad had hit that low point that so many people face, that his perception of life collapses, and then he has lost complete control of everything. He has lost control of his emotions, of everything around him. But the only one decision that he has full control over is whether or not he kills himself or not. And that one decision, when you weigh it up, shall I live another day in this pain, or shall I go and take my own life and be pain-free, you know, isn't a hard decision to make when you're in that deep hole. And one thing from watching videos on YouTube and doing some studies, and also, you know, relating it to my dad as well, is the pain that someone's going through when they're in that situation is far greater than any pain that they're going to endure by doing it. And any pain that they're going to give to anyone around them. And what I mean by that is, you know, the pain that they're in mentally is so excruciating that they just want the pain to stop. They want the pain to end. And it doesn't matter how much physical pain it takes to get there, you know, just to ease that mental pain is the most important thing. And there's been, you know, people, I read, you know, there's a good TED talk on it on YouTube, and people saying that when someone has tried to jump off a bridge, for example, and the person has pulled them from the bridge, they always say that their body is limp, their body is lightweight, it's like they've given in. The pain has been released, you know, their body is completely lightweight. And a shocking thing with my dad's one is, and you know, I never shared this before writing this article, is when my dad was hit and witnesses went up to him, he smiled, or he was smiling. And you know, that goes to show that he had managed to get out of that pain that he was in. And it didn't matter how much physical pain he inflicted on himself. And to be honest, it didn't matter how much pain he was to inflict on others, as long as he was out of that pain, that mental pain that he was in at the time. And you know, I want to create this video to really open your eyes up to it. And the reason being is because suicide right now is the biggest killer of all men under the age of 50. And guys under the age of 50, the biggest killer is men. It's suicide. It's not road accidents. It's not, you know, alcoholism, drugs. It's suicide. That's the biggest killer of all men. In the UK alone, a man takes his own life every 2 hours. Out of all of the suicides last year as well, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, it's different, but out of all the suicides last year, 76% were men. And the increase of men taking their own life is increasing. So it's time that we do something about this. Okay, and you know, I wanted to share this story. This is completely out of my comfort zone. This is completely not what I really wanted to do, but you know, I wanted to share this awareness, and because the article went pretty viral, I wanted to create a video as well. So some things that we can do to spread awareness is one, talk about it, think about it, and do something about it. There's such a stigma still behind suicide that we don't talk about it, we don't think about it, and we don't do anything about it. If you're watching this video, you're currently thinking about it. So it's now time for you to do something and to talk about it. The more we can openly talk about mental health, the better things are going to get. And I truly, truly believe that. The more that we can think, the more that we can talk, and the more that we can do about it, the better things will get. And it's been happening recently, you know, in the UK, the NHS has funded more money into mental health this year. And that's all because we're trying to break that stigma of mental health. People should talk openly about it. When was the last time that someone was, you know, rewarded or put on a TV show for overcoming their deep depression and overcoming, you know, suicide? It never ever happens because we're afraid of talking about mental health. So let's talk about it, let's do something about it, and you know, let's think about it as well. The other thing as well is society, especially when it comes to men. If you open up, if you deal and talk about your emotions, it's a strength, it isn't a weakness. Now with guys, it becomes, you know, very un-alpha of you if you show any form of weakness. If you walked into your workplace in the morning and you saw a woman crying to her friends, you know, you'd probably see that and you'd be shocked at first, but then you'd probably think, okay, she's gonna be okay. Now, if you walked into your office or your workplace and you saw a man absolutely crying his eyes out in hysterics to another co-worker, what is your opinion of that situation going to be? Now, the reason being is because, you know, I'm not saying go and cry all the time, but we need to be more open about our emotions. And this whole lad culture is good, but it also shouldn't, you know, it's not good in a way, but it shouldn't restrain us from being ourselves. You know, we shouldn't try and be someone that we're not. And society doesn't help that. So we need to obviously pay attention to that. Social media allows us to compare ourselves to others. We need to stop that, and we need to really get a hold of society when it comes to, you know, men dealing with their emotions. And I believe that that is the key factor behind the suicide rates right now, is because we don't know how to deal with our shit. We don't know how to deal with our thoughts. We think that if we deal with it in the way that we should, which is open up and talk about it and actually, you know, be responsible for it, that people are going to see us as being weak. But in reality, it's not. So we need to be able to deal with our shit and be able to, you know, talk openly about our feelings. And society needs to allow us to do that as well. The third thing is the word commit. So no one has committed suicide since, you know, it was decriminalized in the 1970s, I believe it was. You know, people commit murder, people commit rape. No one commits suicide. People shouldn't be putting suicide and murder in the same bracket because, you know, committing suicide isn't a crime. It was decriminalized. So let's stop saying he committed suicide, because that just makes it, you know, that puts it in the same bracket as a crime. And it isn't someone committing suicide. So we need to remove the word commit. That's a small change, but it's something that, you know, people should address. And last but not least is treat it. We need to start being more aware of how to deal with depression, being more aware of how to deal with breakdowns, being more aware of how to deal with suicide. When my dad went to the doctors and said, you know, I feel extremely depressed, and the doctor prescribed him with antidepressants, my dad was sent home. We had no manual on what to do. We, as a family, we didn't know how to help him, and him himself didn't have a manual on how to help himself. He was just given these tablets which, you know, then look like magic pills, and when they don't start to take effect, they don't start to work, you start to give in. So we need to start understanding how to treat mental health. And that comes from the person who's in the situation, in that deep, dark depression, and also the people around them in terms of supporting them. You know, I could have probably done more, but I had no idea. I had no idea that my dad was in such a depressive state. I thought it was just a period of his life that he was going through that he'd snap out of, but he never did. So we don't know how to treat it, and I hope that awareness allows us to be able to treat it better. And I also hope that there's people that come forward who have been in the situation and share some kind of hope to others. Because you can get out of that dark hole, you can get out of that deep depression. You know, there's so many people that have done it, but because we don't talk about it as much, you know, the hope isn't as high as it should be. So there's various ways to treat it, from, you know, talking about it openly, from, you know, working on your self-improvement, working on your self-help, even watching, you know, videos on YouTube that's all about positivity and growth. You know, opening up, speaking to someone. There's medication that, when, you know, given out correctly and taken correctly, can also help. There's so much that we can do to treat it, but we need to take action. So, you know, I really wanted to just create this video. I've probably missed out loads of things, so I'm gonna link to the article below this video. And I want you to get involved. There's, at the time of writing this, at the time of recording this, I think there's about 40 comments of people sharing their stories, and the more people that can share their stories, the better. So you can either do it below this video, or you can go over to that post, read the full post where I go into a little bit more information and share the post, and also, you know, comment on your story. The more people that we can get talking about this, the better. So please share this video, please do whatever you can if you're related to it, if you resonated with it, and I really, really appreciate you listening to me go on about this personal subject. So thank you again, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment, share this video, like, do what you need to do, and remember that if we can talk about it, if we can think about it, and if we can do something about it, things are going to get better. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, guys, and I will see you soon.